Hello and welcome back for another series preview video. Today we're talking about the Stars and Vegas Golden Knights. I have 6 of the 8 series already up besides this one. The only series I don't have a video up for right now is Edmonton and LA. That'll be coming out later tonight. But right now we're talking about Vegas and Dallas. That being said, if you want to see the other stuff, check out the channel. Hit like on this video, subscribe, check out the other stuff. But let's get into it. So right now, both these teams are kind of middle of the pack in terms of Stanley Cup odds, and that's because I think they're just in a really tough section of the bracket more so than how these teams are built. They're in that section with the Jets and the Avalanche, and it's going to be a dogfight to get out of there, to say the least. Vegas at plus 1,300, Dallas at plus 850. Dallas has the 6th best odds. Vegas has the 8th. These are as of yesterday before puck drop of the first playoff game. I wanted to make sure I had it so it wasn't influenced by games yesterday. For example, I imagine Toronto's odds might have dropped yesterday with how they played. Bruins might have gone up slightly. I don't know, didn't check, but this is as of yesterday. You look and you see Dallas. There's really no holes in how this team plays. There's not a lot of question marks. You kind of know what you're going to get. You're going to get a team that has scored at elite level. A little surprising with how great their depth scoring has been to be 3rd in the league, but I think when we think of Dallas, we think of a team that plays tight defensive hockey, which is true, as you can tell by the 8th goals against. But on the other hand, you also have their high scoring depth now. You look at the season series here, you'll see that Vegas swept them 3-0, but the last game between them was in December. That's over 4 months ago at this point, so you kind of throw that away. I had beef with the NHL schedule makers. There's been a few of these series where you look at and you're like, oh, they haven't played each other in 3 to 4 months. That's unacceptable. Put the out-of-conference games early in the season and have a few of these be later in the season, like after the trade deadline, because these results don't represent how these teams are playing at all right now. You look at the odds for the series. Dallas is minus 140 to win it. Slight favorite. Vegas plus 120. It's a heavyweight tilt. It feels like conference finals in the first round, to be honest. And it's very interesting, to say the least, that these teams are winding up having to face each other in the first round when they faced each other in conference finals last year. Look at stats for this year. Who's carrying the point scoring for both teams? Jason Robertson leading the way for the Stars. Very good player. Very, very promising player with a good future, too. Last year he had like 90-something points, I think, so a little bit of a step back, but still he's a phenomenal player. He's going to have to be big for the Stars to go far in the playoffs. You have Joe Pavelski still chipping in almost 30 goals at the age of 39. Second leading scorer, a little surprising. If I told you going into this year the Stars would have a top 3 offense in the league in goals for, and Joe Pavelski was going to be the second leading scorer, you might not believe me. But here we are. Wyatt Johnston, he's stepped up massively this year. He was a player to kind of look at in the playoffs last year as someone who had just broken into the lineup, young, inexperienced. Now he's got experience. He put up 65 and 82. He's gonna have to be money for them, and I think he might actually do pretty well for them in the playoffs. I think we'll look at the stats in the last 20 in a little bit, which he's been pretty good as of late. Rupe Hintz, he's probably the player that I'm looking at the most to kind of raise his production from the regular season into the postseason. 65 points in 8 games, which is good, but you would expect maybe a point per game out of a guy like Rupe Hintz. Duchesne's proven to be a good middle 6 option for them scoring wise. Jamie Benn's been hot as of late and is a good winger. Miro Heiskanen, probably the best defenseman maybe in this series. You could make an argument for Alex Pietrangelo just because of history of what Alex Pietrangelo has done in the playoffs, and I wouldn't argue against that. But Miro Heiskanen's a phenomenal player in his own right. One of the best edge work skaters in the league. Just turns really fast too. And then you just look at the guys below him. You get into some lesser names, but some guys who are pretty good depth scorers. And Tyler Seguin, who's kind of a big name, would probably be up here in the top, around like Matt Duchene's territory if he didn't get injured. And just some really good mix of veterans, young players, and guys in their prime right now on the Stars, which is kind of what you see in a lot of these championship teams, is a good mix of just what people bring to the table and people at different stages of their career offering different things. Then go to Vegas, and very deep Vegas team. They made some key acquisitions this year, getting Noah Hannafin, Anthony Mantha, and Thomas Hertl, all players who should factor into the series and be pivotal players determining how this series goes. Then got Jack Eichel, who's above a point per game. Jonathan Marchessault, who you know is a gamer in the playoffs. William Karlsson, a gamer. Mark Stone, who's going to play through whatever injury he has. You got Barbashev, playoff performer. Shea Theodore, just a really good, sturdy two-way defenseman who puts up a good amount of points. He'd probably be up here in like the top 5 if he didn't get hurt. Just Thomas Hertl is going to be interesting to see how he does. He's been pretty good in the playoffs in the past for San Jose. I'm going to be curious to see what he can do. And yeah, Vegas, just a very deep team. I think really what's going to come down to it, I think the defense cores, you kind of look at them with how they play. They're kind of going to wash each other out. They're both going to be pretty solid defensively. Hard to see some high-scoring games in this series, to be honest. I feel like they're going to be some very tight games, and it's going to come down to the middle 6. And where I start to kind of raise questions about Vegas is the injuries that these players are carrying into the playoffs. Now, a lot of people like to claim Vegas is using LTIR to their benefit, and they're playing the system, which there might be some truth to that. But at the same time, I think Vegas would prefer to have these players healthy than to have injured players going to the playoffs. Because I know Mark Stone's kind of the one everyone points to, and there is some truth to what they're doing. But at the same time, I think Mark Stone is a habitually injured player at this point. It's every year with him. I think it's just he's willing to play through the willing to play through the pain once the playoffs hit, and that's just kind of how I look at that in this situation. Is that's just what's going to happen here. And you also got Chandler Stevenson with an injury going in, Anthony Mantha, and it kind of raises some concerns there of how healthy are these players. Are they going to be playing through things that are going to slow them down? Mark Stone's had hip issues in the past, so that's going to be interesting. And you look at the mix of talent here on the Stars. You got Duchesne, Sagan, Marchment, Jamie Benn, Wyatt Johnson, Logan Stankoven. It's a mix of youth with Wyatt Johnson and Stankoven, and a youth of vets who have been there, done that with Duchesne, Sagan, and Benn. I'm kind of leaning towards the Stars when I look in the middle 6. I think the top lines of each team kind of match each other and watch each other out. And I mean, both these teams are loaded, though. It's kind of a shame that they have to face each other this early from their point of view, because both these teams, if they were in other series against other teams, would probably have a good chance of going to the next round. But in this type of series, it's more so of a coin flip. You look at who's been producing as of late, and as I mentioned, Jamie Benn has been phenomenal as of late. 12 goals in his last 20 games, 25 points. He kind of knows. He's a guy who's been around for a while now. He knows this is one of his last kicks at the can. He only has so many good years left where he's going to be a productive member of a team before the wheels fall off and he's not going to be in the league anymore. He knows this is now or never. He's gearing up, and he's going to try to put the team on his back. Wyatt Johnston, as I mentioned, he's like 21 years old, his son. He's been above a point per game as of late. Jason Robertson above a point per game. Miro Heiskanen producing at elite D level numbers for points production-wise. 15 assists, that's kind of his MO. More of an assister than a goal scorer. Joe Pavelski, 16-20. Rupe Hintz, he's the guy, guys. He's the guy who needs to pick it up the most for them going into the playoffs, for them to really go on a run here. I think he can, because he has been good in the playoffs in the past, but we need to see that. On the other hand, you have Jack Eichel, who's been a monster lately. Him and Jamie Benn, both around the same point production in that time period. William Karlsson, Marchessault, Stevenson, Theodore, you kind of know what you're getting out of this Vegas team. They're going to come at you in waves. Jack Eichel is going to probably be the leading scorer, maybe Marchessault, maybe Karlsson, and then the other guys are all going to chip in and contribute. Where things get interesting is goaltending. Goaltending stats for both these guys throughout the year are not spectacular when you look at save percentage, but they're not bad. A little below both standards probably. I think you'd think of these guys more around 915 than 905 and 908. But regardless, splitting hairs here. And a very interesting thing to note about the goaltending here is that Logan Thompson is starting, not Aiden Hill, who I included stats from last year. No, I didn't include stats. I included stats from this year. But if you remember, last year, Aiden Hill was the goalie who won the Stanley Cup with the Vegas Golden Knights. He was their starter in the finals, and he was fantastic. It kind of lets you know if things go south with Logan Thompson, they can switch to Aiden Hill and probably be pretty okay in net, which is something that not all teams have a luxury of a good backup. That being said, I think it's kind of a wash when you look at goaltending. I think Jake Ottinger is probably the goaltender I would want the most, despite him having the worst save percentage of them. I've seen Jake Ottinger take over games in the past, so I'd give the slight edge to Dallas if I was, but I'd probably call this a wash too. Last 20 games, this is kind of where I kind of came to my determining factor here. Dallas is significantly better on the special teams. So these two left columns here. They're as of the last 4 games or so, basically since March 1st. As you see, Dallas has a top 3 power play in the league in that stretch, 29.2%. Vegas 23.6%, which is good. But on the penalty kill, this is where I start to get concerned. As you see, this is a long list because if you go all the way to the bottom here at 26th, you'll see that Vegas is killing penalties at a 74.5% rate, which indicates that it's not going too great for them on the penalty kill. That's 1 out of 4 is going in, essentially. And then you look at Dallas up here at 9th, 82.4%. Now, the 10% difference might not sound like a lot, or sorry, the 8% difference, but in the playoffs, these fine margins matter. Over the course of a 7-game series, you're probably going to get like 20 to 25 power plays, approximately. That's a good guesstimate on my part. And the chances are that Dallas is probably going to score 4 more power play goals if these stats continue. So can Vegas kind of get it together and put together their penalty kill for the playoffs? Is Mark Stone coming back going to make a big difference? That could definitely make a big difference and maybe put them more so towards the 80 mark, and this is kind of a moot point. But at the same time, you kind of got to see it. Then you look at the lately, Vegas 21st in the NHL since March 1st in regulation wins. Dallas 3rd. Dallas has been better as of late. You look at history of playoffs, kind of a quick glance here at what they've done as of late. And as you may know, both these teams have made runs. As you can see, lost conference finals for Dallas last year, lost in the first round the year before, missed the year before that, lost in the finals to Tampa Bay, if you remember that. Then on the Vegas side, you have they won in the finals. A lot of people don't remember, they missed the playoffs the year before that with a big rebound season. Conference finals, lost Stanley Cup. It's kind of ridiculous to see that like 4 of Vegas's 6 years, they've at least gone to the conference finals. 2 of them have gone to the Stanley Cup finals. It's just insane what that team, what that organization has been able to accomplish in 6 years, this being their 7th. So as you can see, both of these teams deeply experienced in the playoffs as of late, and really have one has something to show for it, the other does not. That being said, Vegas, Dallas, who am I picking? I'm going to pick the Dallas Stars to win this series. I think Dallas's middle 6 is going to step up. I think that they're just healthier going into the playoffs. Have a little more faith in Ottinger than I do in Logan Thompson. That being said, if you saw my bracket pool video, you'll know that I picked the Dallas Stars to win the Stanley Cup. On the other hand, though, I did acknowledge that they could be one and done. That's no disrespect to Dallas. That's just a really tough matchup in the first round. So those are my opinions, my thoughts about the stats going into the series. If you enjoyed this video, leave a thumbs up. If you want to see my other videos, check out the channel and subscribe for future videos. Like I mentioned, the Kings Edmonton preview should be coming out later tonight. And then tomorrow we're going to get into more topical discussions about what's going on in the playoffs. Like I mentioned, that Bruins goalie rotation video is probably going to be the first one I do. So I'd expect that sometime tomorrow. That being said, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.